All right, I just want to give a shout out to Charlotte Wolff. I've just been reading her book again, The Human Hand, which is her definitive volume from 1942, where she explains her kind of approach to hand reading. She really laid it out really very clearly, and of course, that she's very scientific in her approach, and she's very keen to assert the primacy of the scientific method in her approach, and she draws on Gustav Caras, Kretschmar, Nova Sheed, has her people who are inspiring her from the 19th century into the study of the hand, and who are all trying to base the study of the hand on an empiric basis. For example, she notes that Gustav Caras was the first to associate intelligence with the length of the fingers, for example. So her book's quite comprehensive in lots of different kind of ways, but because she's trying to give an empiric basis for hand reading, one of the things I think is really interesting is her examination of the thumb. And so the chapter on the thumb, which is actually a section on the thumb in the book called The Parts of the Hand, basically it's only 4 pages long. It's 5 pages long, 6 pages long, but it's an absolutely goldmine of information about the hand, and gives a very, very good argument as to why the thumb reveals the things that it does, and much better than anything that Benham writes, for example. If you read Benham's book, I mean, he also talks about the prehensile grip. He talks about the ability to grasp, which of course humans have, and apes don't have that with their thumb. So he kind of recognizes sort of anthropological significance of thumb, but he doesn't make an awful lot of it. And instead, he focuses on the balance of the two phalanges, the top phalange and the bottom phalange. He talks about will and logic as his two primary things. He says the thumb does actually have 3 phalanges, so he's the originator of this idea that which you can consider that as a phalange, when clearly it is not a phalange, even by definition. And then he focuses on the combination of the top phalange versus the bottom phalange and the tip shape, and he doesn't really say an awful lot of great deal about the meaning and the significance of the thumb, except it's to do with willpower and determination. Charlotte Wolff, on the other hand, takes a much better perspective, and mainly because she takes this anthropological view, where she's basically comparing the thumbs of human beings and apes. And I'll just show you what I mean by that, because she actually did have the opportunity to study with the hands, the paws and apes and gorillas, because she knew Julian Huxley, and Julian Huxley was at that time the person in charge of the Royal Zoological Society, which meant he had access to the zoo in Regent's Park, and so he was able to give permission for her to go and look at the thumbs of apes and gorillas. So here's a classic example from her book, The Hand of Man. On the left there, you see the hand of a gorilla. On the right there, the hand of a male idiot, which she says resembles that of the gorilla. So there's some unfortunate associations made in her books, but you can quite clearly see that the thumb there in gorilla is very small and very rudimentary. And she notices that the thumb is also very small in the hands of people who are mentally ill, who've got schizophrenic issues, or people who are mentally handicapped, like someone like this Down syndrome person. You can see that the thumb is very, very small in that hand. And that's fine. And there you go. That's a woman with a mental handicap. And she illustrates this really, really well. And so one of the things that becomes obvious from that is one of the big differences between human beings and apes in general is that human beings have the ability to control the world around them. And one of the things that's obviously distinct about human beings with small thumbs, whether it's a Down syndrome person or a mentally handicapped person, is they equally don't have the ability to control their lives and control the world around them. So it's a very obvious way of kind of creating an understanding of what the thumb is all about. This idea of the oppositional grasp is clearly important. The fact that we can grip things that way is the reason why we can make tools. And, that's a nice hypothesis that kind of shows that. But this really confirms that hypothesis when you look at people who have congenital conditions or chromosomal abnormalities that don't allow them to control their life in the way that we consider most people are able to do. And we notice that they have small and rudimentary thumbs, either slightly high set or just very short, tells us then that the thumb is quite a significant indicator of this ability to control and direct our lives. So, and that's how she defines the thumb is. So from that, she says that the thumb shows how we can manipulate the environment or the world around us, or to take control of our life circumstances. She described the thumb as being able to take our own life into our own hands, to be independent. She also associates it to do with self-identity and self-awareness. She makes a really interesting point about the thumb and the index finger, that this ability to do this with the thumb is one of the first things we learn as a child to do about the spatial relationship between objects. And that's actually quite significant, because by being able to create a cognitive apprehension of the nature of objects in the world experienced through the fingertips, and the oppositional grasp between these two as we do it to go to pick something up, whatever that object is, let's say it's a pencil, for example, the ability to do that enables us to see and create a sense of space. And the implication of that is, if we could see the sense of space and where the object within that space, then there is a sense of a subject that is in relationship to that object. And that relationship, that sense of subject, is a product of awareness of the sense of object. So this, she argues, this prehensile grip is actually one of the ways in which we can get a sophisticated understanding of the nature of the phenomena in the world around us as objects, which in turn psychologically accentuates the sense of subject, which as a consequence of that allows a sense of self-awareness or self-identity to be created, and as a consequence of that, therefore, the ability to change or direct the situation and circumstances around us according to our own will, our own desires, or our own needs. And that, of course, is something that people with short thumbs or high-set thumbs, like in the case of this mental handicap person or a Down syndrome person, they don't have so much ability to control the situations and circumstances of their life. And so that's our conclusion. The conclusion is the thumb can be seen to reveal the amount of control we have both over ourselves and the circumstances of our lives. It therefore shows something of our dependency on or independence from both other people and the influences of the world around us. And it is therefore also an important indicator of the human development of consciousness and self-awareness. And so she's kind of come to this understanding of the nature of the thumb by virtue of this anthropological studies that she did on the apes and the gorillas in London Zoo, and by her own studies of schizophrenics and people with all sorts of different kinds of mental handicap. And she basically comes up with a very sensible interpretation of what the thumb's all about. And that's kind of really interesting from a number of different reasons. I mean, we often consider the thumb to be the external, on the external side of the hand, which is to say it's an energy that's directed to the external world and our ability to control the external world. And that's kind of shown by the location of the thumb on the side of the hand as well. So yeah, so this, let me just quote something from you. In this sense of ourselves, it is this sense of ourselves that has given us the capacity to act as independent beings, to act other than purely through the determination of our instincts. From this vantage point, we have the possibility of creating choices in our lives, and hence the possibility of creating a life according to our will. The development of our thumbs has enabled us to impose ourselves on the world around us and so make it conform to our will. And in doing this, we have created those very circumstances which most obviously distinguish us from all other animal life on the planet. Through the development of our thumbs, we've been able to liberate ourselves from blind instinct. Through the development of our thumbs, we've developed both consciousness and, through awareness, freedom of choice. So that, I think, is an extraordinarily good argument. I mean, it's much, much more sophisticated than William Benham, who basically just says the top value is to do with willpower and determination, and the lower value is to do with reason and logic, without really much explanation of that. So whilst most people go on about Benham and his amazing chapter on the thumb, 40 pages of his 650-page book, I would advocate that you read the 6 pages of Charlotte Wolff's 148 pages as a much more kind of succinct and yet erudite exposition on the nature of the thumb. and why it indicates the things that we tend to see that it indicates. So that's just, there we go. And she points out, yeah, there you go. There's the handprint of a thumbprint of a capuchin monkey, one of the more intelligent monkeys. Apparently, he's got a very long thumb. So she also points out the obvious that too, that intelligence is reflected in the thumbs as well. So there you go, Jeff Bezos telling us it's all okay. All right. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Charlotte Wolff, because you know, she's an extraordinary inspiration in lots of different kinds of ways. But if you do get a chance to get a copy of her book, The Human Hand, published by Methuen in 1942, strongly recommend that you do. I can't tell you how many times I've read this book, but it's been a joy to be reading it again. And it's just, there's a careful and thorough way that she presents her arguments in the book, and the conclusions that she comes to, and as to why the different parts of the hand mean what they mean. There's some very good insights in there. You might learn something too. All right. Hope you found that interesting. I'm going to be doing some more posting on my Patreon page, which is, I've just started that. So my Patreon page is going to be mainly focused on doing handprint interpretations. So if you're interested in learning how to read hands, or if you wanted to find out the significances of certain features of the hand, I'm going to be illustrating those by reference to different handprint assessments I'm going to do of famous people, people that, who are on the internet, people in the news, and also handprint collections that I've got, and I've done some assessments of those handprints. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, come to the Patreon page and sign up. There's different levels, so you can just be curious, and then there's, if you're interested in actually more detailed analysis, you can join at the student level, and if you are a practitioner and you want to take part in Zoom sessions with me and do handprint interpretation, there's a level for that as well. So go to there, patreon.com/handreading, and you can check it out. All right. Anyway, Charlotte Wolff, I'll leave some notes in the below, and you can have a look at them there. All right.